Welcome to Spurs Focus, your go-to spot for daily Tottenham news, transfers, and match updates. Don't forget to support the channel by hitting that subscribe button now. Let's dive into today's top story. A new era is dawning at Tottenham Hotspur. From protests outside the stadium under Daniel Levy to Europa League redemption under Ange Postecoglou, and now the bold appointment of Thomas Frank, the buzz around Spurs feels like a fresh start. With new faces in the boardroom, Champions League nights returning, and fans daring to dream big again, could this finally be the beginning of something truly special for Tottenham? The fans have every right to be optimistic, because there is also a buzz around the club at the moment which makes it feel like a fresh start. Just last season there were protests outside the ground against former chairman Daniel Levy because supporters were fed up at the way the club was being run. Ultimately, Tottenham finished the season at the end of Ange Postecoglou's reign by winning the Europa League, and despite their wretched Premier League form, it gave them a passport back onto European football's biggest stage. Tottenham have been bold as a club since then by bringing in Thomas Frank as manager, and it was the will of the fans who really drove an even bigger change. Levy was replaced amid a message that Tottenham want more success. We got our first glimpse of the club's new power brokers in the director's box at West Ham last Saturday. There was Viv Lewis, daughter of former owner Joe Lewis, and her son-in-law Nick Butcher were sat with technical director Johan Lange and chief executive Vinay Venkatesham. You can be sure the new hierarchy will relish their first big European night since taking over. Tottenham have been regulars in the Champions League in the past, and even reached the final in 2019. But a failure to build on the team which Mauricio Pochettino built was perhaps the biggest example of the lack of ambition and failings of Levy's reign. The biggest success, of course, is that £1 billion stadium. It deserves to host the biggest European nights. Villarreal will provide a little taste, and they have got big Champions League dates with Borussia Dortmund, and trips to the likes of Paris Saint-Germain and Monaco. Tottenham should reach the knockout stages, and you could sense the excitement as Frank was asked about his first Champions League campaign since taking charge at Spurs. "It's a fantastic opportunity and experience," said Frank. "We're playing in the Champions League in one of the best, maybe the best, stadiums in the world. Tottenham have made such a promising start, 3 wins and a defeat from 4 Premier League games under Frank, and the squad looks stronger. It has been strengthened in key areas, and it looks exciting. No wonder a lot of Spurs fans will feel the shackles are off, and they can dream big again. The hierarchy wants silverware. They have an ambitious manager. They have a chief executive who makes it his business to be in tune with the fans. This is a big moment for Tottenham, and they have to seize the opportunity. After years of frustration and false dawns, Tottenham fans are desperate for a new beginning. The return to the Champions League and a win over Villarreal might just signal the start of something very special." Left out of Spurs' Champions League squad, Mathys Tel could have sulked, but instead he delivered a relentless performance in Tottenham's 3-0 derby win over West Ham. Thomas Frank hailed the 20-year-old as very impressive, after his tireless pressing helped Spurs secure their first victory at the London Stadium in 6 years. Thomas Frank has hailed the very impressive Mathys Tel after bouncing back from his Champions League snub to help Tottenham to a comprehensive 3-0 win at West Ham. Tel, 20, who spent the second half of last season at Spurs before completing a £30 million permanent move from Bayern Munich in the summer, was informed that he had been left out of their squad for Europe's elite club competition earlier this week. Frank had to trim his contingent from 25 to 22 due to a lack of club-trained players, and Tel was among them to be cut ahead of Tuesday's clash with Villarreal, along with Radu Dragusin, Yves Bissouma, James Maddison, Dejan Kulusevski, Kota Takai. Despite this, Frank named Tel in his starting 11 to face West Ham on Saturday. The France under-21s international began as the centre-forward, with Xavi Simons on the left and Mohamed Kudus on the other side. While Tel's performance was not through the roof, Frank was in awe of his work rate, and pressing having been denied a place in Tottenham's Champions League squad until at least February. Speaking in his post-match press conference, Frank said, "I think Mathys, very impressive. The performance was maybe not through the roof, but it was very solid. I would say 7 out of 10. Worked hard. Pressing, constant pressing. And that's very good also. You know, he's not in the Champions League squad. I'm very happy with the squad. Tottenham ran out comfortable winners at the London Stadium, with Pape Matar Sarr, Lucas Bergvall and Mickey van der Ven finding the back of the net. In truth, it could have been more for Spurs, who registered more shots on target, and more clear-cut chances than their opponents. I think the first 15 to 20 minutes was even, not too much happened, but then I think we really grew into it. And the last 20 or 25, something like that, I think we dominated and created a lot of good opportunities without having too many big chances, Frank added. We had really a lot of dangerous situations, and we know in football sometimes it's also about getting closer and closer and closer. And then suddenly there's that opening where you can score. West Ham defended very well first half. It was difficult to get the clear-cut chances, but when we got it to Xavi and Mo on the sides, and played and run, produced crosses, either in swing or overlap and so on, and a lot of corners where we also were very dangerous. So, happy that the goal came second half, because you never know. The momentum can change after half-time. But we kept going and scored a good goal after, and then 3-0. Done. So, a very good clear win, a good performance. We all know the derby and the importance of the game for the fans. And I think it's a testament to the boys and the group we haven't won here in 6 years. It shows everything how difficult it is to play here, and now we won 3-0 today. I think that's impressive. There were two particularly keen pairs of eyes up in the director's box at the London Stadium that would have been happy with what they had seen of Tottenham Hotspur. For once, neither pair of peepers belonged to Daniel Levy. For the first game since the 63-year-old left his role as executive chairman, the power behind the throne made its presence felt at the first derby of the season for Spurs. Vivienne Lewis and her son-in-law, Nick Butcher, have both been key figures in the recent changes at the top of the North London club, as the generations of the Lewis family have flexed their collective muscle. Vivienne's brother Charles, both of them the children of former Spurs owner Joe Lewis, is also expected to become a more regular presence at matches in the future to complete the new trinity of power. Butcher is co-CEO of Tavistock Group with Levy's son Josh. Tavistock own ENIC, who in turn have a controlling interest in Tottenham. Vivienne and Charles Lewis are senior managing directors of Tavistock. The two family members at Stratford sat between Tottenham's CEO Vinay Venkatesham and technical director Johan Lang. While the Lewis family pushed for change inside Spurs after instigating a major independent review, so Venkatesham is shaping that new look. A new chief marketing officer, Adam Gardner, has been plucked from Arsenal to start early in 2026, and there remains the expected return of former managing director of football, Fabio Paratici, in a more official capacity. Venkatesham surrounded himself with football knowledge during his time at the Gunners, and it will be the same at Tottenham, with Paratici and Lang said to work well together with complementary skill sets. It's uncharted territory within Spurs, as the staff around the club get used to a new era. The micromanaging nature of the long-serving Levy and his board has given way to a different kind of management, with staff empowered to make decisions, and that will take some getting used to. Whether the club ends up being better for it, after 24 years with a single guiding voice, will become clear in the months ahead and beyond. The Bournemouth Borefest aside, Thomas Frank's team have otherwise showcased the firm foundations he has constructed this summer, with 3 clean sheets in their first 4 matches, and just that single Cherries goal conceded since the season began. On top of that, the added focus on set pieces, both defensively and offensively, from coach Andreas Georgsson has been the low-hanging fruit Ben Davies spoke about in pre-season as being the simple things Tottenham could do to improve. While the derby at West Ham was played at a snail's pace at times, forced by a home side that for once did not look particularly bothered about any London rivalry, it was the set pieces that had the Hammers clinging on for dear life at every corner and free kick. In the first half, the officials caused more problems for Tottenham than their hosts did. A Christian Romero header from Mohamed Kudus's corner was ruled out. That was after Mickey van der Ven was adjudged to have pushed Kyle Walker-Peters in the build-up. Yet none of the officials or those in the VAR room seemingly noticed that the West Ham goalkeeper, Mads Hermansen, had pushed the Dutchman into the former Spurs full-back. The injured James Maddison tweeted, "Honestly, the referees and VAR have had an absolute shocker of a start to the season. If that goal is disallowed for a foul, You will never ever see a corner be taken without a referee blowing for something ever again. Then Van der Ven was wrestled to the floor at a corner not long after, with only the briefest of checks deciding there was nothing to see. I think the disallowed goal is for me clearly a goal, Frank told Football.London. When I look back, it's Mads Hermansen who pushed Mickey into Kyle Walker-Peters, and we talk about higher thresholds. For me, it's a clear goal. If you see the United goal against Fulham a few weeks ago, where there were two hands in the back, it was given. I've heard afterwards it was a mistake, but no matter what, for higher thresholds, this is clearly a goal that needs to stand. I think the Mickey Van der Ven situation, I think it's the player that marks Mickey doesn't look at the ball, and he got two hands around him. So it's one of those where it could definitely have been given. I'm probably slightly biased, I would say 60-40 it should have been given, but I know those situations are not easy. The first half bore plenty of the hallmarks of the Door Derby at the end of last season, as that day, an under-strength Spurs side shared the spoils with a poor Hammers one. This time 10 seconds, half minutes would decide the destination of the 3 points, and they were not remaining in Stratford. The first moment came 2 minutes after the restart when Spurs debutant Xavi Simon's deep corner found Pape Matar Sarr completely unmarked at the back post to head home. It was a bewildering absence of defending, but that does not detract from the movement.